A devastating flood in Texas kills soldiers. Plus, you can still see the scars of the 2011 flood here at home. A look back. And a sweet treat is in the spotlight. More on Donut Day.
And we have a chance for some storms, possibly strong to severe. And I'll have details all coming up.
You're watching KX News.
I'm Tia Streeter. Thanks for watching today. Days of relentless rain is taking a tragic toll across Texas. 5 soldiers are dead and 4 others are missing after raging water swept away their vehicle during a training exercise near Fort Hood, Texas. Don Champion reports from outside the base.
Search teams are focused on this lake area of Fort Hood as they look for several soldiers who disappeared in floodwaters.
It's just an unfortunate accident that occurred quickly.
Officials say the soldiers were part of a 12-member unit training Thursday when their vehicle, like this one, tried crossing a swollen creek and got swept away.
They were out on the range. They regularly pass through these weather conditions like this.
Search crews have recovered the bodies of 5 of the soldiers. 3 soldiers were rescued and taken to the hospital. They could be released as early as today. Flood watches and warnings are posted across most of the state. Officials are also watching the Brazos River closely, which is expected to crest in the days ahead. 2 years ago, it was bone dry.
No.
The driver and passenger in this truck in Granbury narrowly escaped getting swept away in raging water.
Water can look innocent, it can look harmless, but you can drive into it and be completely swept away.
More storms could dump another 10 inches of rain in parts of the state. Don Champion, CBS News, Fort Hood, Texas.
Officials say floodwaters have destroyed nearly 600 homes around Texas. Volunteers from Minot and Williston are deploying south as historic flooding continues to affect thousands around that area. Leanne Perdue is from Ray. She is deploying to Austin to serve in mass care sheltering as a service associate. She leaves today and will be gone for about 2 weeks. Shauna Bessie Stout of Minot also leaves. She is going to Bryan, Texas, taking care of handing out water, cleaning supplies, or anything someone may need. The Red Cross has sent 22 emergency response vehicles to help. 6 more are on the way to Texas to support the relief efforts. Floodwaters are devastating parts of Europe. The Seine River has burst its bank near the Eiffel Tower and other famous landmarks in Paris. In Paris, tourists are being turned away from the world-famous Louvre as rising water swamped the French capital. Worried about leaks in the basement, museum workers moved about 250,000 artworks to safer ground. The Louvre's most famous painting, Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa, is staying put on an upper floor. The Seine River hasn't been this high in 35 years. Water levels are 20 feet above normal. It's been 5 years since the flood of 2011 back home in North Dakota, but you can still see the scars it left at Fort Abraham Lincoln State Park. Tom Wirtz and Kelly Succi have been going to the park for decades. They remember when there was about 6 feet of water covering the campground at Fort Lincoln. They said last year trees were still dying from the flood. Kelly Succi says he's having to relearn how to fish and how they behave because the area's environment has changed so much.
So much water coming down scoured the bottom of the river. It's deeper in places, and it's almost like the habits of the fish have changed because of what has happened to the river.
Both fishermen said they were surprised at how well the area's vegetation recovered shortly after the flood.
Now, KX Weather First Look.
Well, we started off very warm this morning. In fact, we started off with a lot of 50s, and now we're seeing 60s and 70s. Right now, 74 in Minot, 72 in Williston, mid-70s as well. In the capital city in Dickinson, almost at 70 degrees. But something you'll feel when you head outside, that's going to be the winds. The wind speeds have picked up in the west. We're averaging 20 to 25 miles per hour, and our wind gusts are, of course, even stronger than that. 35 and close to 40 miles per hour for the west. It looks like it's going to be a windy day, especially for western North Dakota, and we have a chance for storms, possibly even strong to severe storms. And I'll have details on when I think that's going to happen and your full weather forecast all coming up.
Minot Air Force Base is getting a new leader. Colonel Matthew Brooks will officially take over the post in a change of command ceremony at the base today. He will replace Colonel Jason Armagast as the 5th Bomb Wing Commander. Brooks previously served as Vice Wing Commander at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. Armagast has been the Minot commander since July of 2014. The military is set for another large-scale exercise in the Powder River Training Complex. It covers nearly 35,000 square miles of airspace in the Dakotas, Montana, and Wyoming, the largest over the continental U.S. Officials at Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota say multiple types of aircraft will take to the skies Tuesday through Thursday of next week. They caution people on the ground that there's the potential for loud noises, including sonic booms. Some ranchers have complained about disruption to their operations by the training exercises. The South Dakota Stock Growers Association says the military and ranchers are on the right track to resolving those issues. The famous Blue Angels will not fly this weekend as planned after a deadly accident yesterday. A Blue Angels jet crashed in a huge fireball Thursday during a practice run in Tennessee, killing the pilot. It's the first Blue Angels crash in nearly a decade. CBS's Michelle Miller once flew with that pilot. She reports from New York.
A crash of a Blue Angel jet, part of the Navy's elite flying force, was marked by a plume of black smoke and flames. The most famous flying squad in America was practicing for the Great Tennessee Air Show when the FA-18 Hornet crashed just after 3 o'clock Thursday afternoon near the airport in Smyrna, Tennessee. The 5 remaining jets landed safely, but Captain Jeff Coos was killed. He was piloting plane number 6.
Well, here we go. Are you excited?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Last year, I had the privilege of being a passenger flying along with Captain Coos.
There's 200 already. Lift off.
And he was exactly where he wanted to be.
I got my pilot's license when I was 17, and I wanted to get in the military and fly the fastest, meanest thing they could give me, and this is it. The Hornet is it.
Early Thursday, the Blue Angels had a successful practice flight over Nashville, but just hours later, tragedy. As night fell in Smyrna, hundreds of people met at this park and held candles in a tribute to the fallen pilot.
I get a smile on my face every time I get in the jet.
Captain Coos told me he was proud to represent the Navy and the Marine Corps with excellence.
I was once the little kid that we now see at the crowd line standing 2 feet tall looking up at the skies, and so to have that dream realized and be here for me is an absolute honor.
Michelle Miller, CBS News, New York.
Closer to home now, the North Dakota Farm Bureau makes a big announcement, but it isn't directly related to Measure 1 on this June's ballot. Danny Taylor brings us the details.
North Dakota Farm Bureau filed a suit in federal district court today against the state of North Dakota involving our anti-corporate farming laws.
The Farm Bureau hasn't been outspoken in its opposition over a measure in the upcoming election. If passed, that measure would allow corporate farming in the dairy and swine industries. The North Dakota legislature passed the law last session, but Farm Bureau would like the law to apply to all areas of agriculture.
Our anti-corporate farming laws are discriminatory and unconstitutional. Our existing laws favor some family farms while working against other families and their business models.
Lease says they have members that are family farmers that would have to split up their farm under the current North Dakota law. Under the kinship clause, you can only incorporate a farm up to first cousins. The North Dakota Farm Bureau says this forces North Dakota farmers to operate at a disadvantage.
We've got some members too that are at the end of the line. They don't have family that wants to come back and farm. They don't have, but they got a hired man that they'd like to start working into it. Or they got a neighbor kid that they'd like to start working into taking over their operation. What a great opportunity.
The North Dakota Farmers Union headed the petition to get Measure 1 on the ballot. They say allowing corporate farming would hurt small farmers and make it harder for them to compete with large operations. Measure 1 will be decided June 14th. The decision on the lawsuit could take up to 2 years. In Bismarck, I'm Danny Taylor, KX News.
The Farm Bureau says they have been working on the lawsuit since 2014, before Bill 2351 was even in legislation. For the second time this week, quick action on the part of kids helped put out a fire in the Red River Valley. Two Moorhead brothers were tending their lemonade stand when they saw smoke drifting from their neighbor's garage. Thinking quickly, the boys called 911 while their dad smothered the flame. Firefighters say the damage would have been much worse if not for the quick action. One of the boys could hardly believe what he saw.
I'm like, what? And I ran in, and I was gonna run in. He tossed me the phone and told me to call 911.
The Moorhead Fire Department says they aren't sure what caused the fire yet at this point. Still to come on